If I had a crystal ball and I could look into this crystal ball and tell you guys exactly where your business opportunities lie looking forward, what is working in the future, what is not working in the future, things that we should totally eliminate, things that we should totally start doing in order to see your business grow and flourish. Imagine how amazing that would be. Guys, I don't have a crystal ball, but I do have the next best thing. We've recently just launched our opportunity analysis, and the entire premise of this exercise is to help you guys understand where the holes in your bucket currently lie. Why is that important? Because we don't want to start filling a bucket that's leaking. Guys, for a limited time only, I'm going to be offering this as a free giveaway. It's $350, but for you site shedders, you're going to get it for free. You need to head across to tradie.wiki/grow and enter the code SiteShed to get it for nothing. Off the back of it, book a time to have a chat and we'll see where it takes us. We're looking forward to helping you and seeing where your opportunities lie. Today's podcast has been proudly brought to you by Tradie Web Guys. Tradie Web Guys work with tradespeople only on their websites and marketing solutions to help them stand out from their competition. Everything from web design through to SEO, search engine marketing, content creation, you name it, guys. It is a customized solution for trade-based organizations and it's fantastic. Head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/apply, fill in the form and let's have a conversation.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Dave, welcome back to the Site Shed podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Matt.
Or Super Dave, should I call you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can attach that to my name. I mean, the way things have been going.
Stick that on your LinkedIn, Super Dave.
Yeah. I should probably start wearing a cape.
That's it. Yeah, or at least a mask. No offense.
Right.
So, mate, we had you on the show back in April of 2018, and it was called Creative Marketing with Dave Gatto. And I think the standout for me in that was your little creative approach to getting in front of commercial customers at that point in time in the space of real estate agents and strata managers and that kind of thing with your little tip truck exercise, which was great. You guys can go check that out if you want to go hear more about that. That was episode 146. Holy shit, what are we on now? Now we're up to, this is going to be episode 326. So it's gone back sometimes. Yeah.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That's really, really cool.
Yeah. So, mate, welcome back. Thanks for coming back. It's really good to reconnect. I know you're pretty active in the group and you pop up every now and then. So it's good to check back in and have a chat with you once again.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad to be here.
And so where are you tuning in from?
I'm actually in a place called Dover, Pennsylvania. So I'm in the United States. Our business is located out of York, Pennsylvania.
And maybe for the listeners and viewers that are not completely familiar, maybe give us a bit of a rundown as to your story and maybe a bit about your background. It's pretty amazing where you were and where you've ended up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to get into that. And, so what I'm going to tell you, it could be a little bit graphic, but I'm just going to, I'm not going to censor it. I'm just going to tell you like it is. I'm going to give it to you guys raw. So basically, in 2014, I was a homeless, hopeless drug addict living on the street. I was in and out of jails due to my drug use. And then in 2014, I got sober. I was working a regular job. I used to stack tires at a tire plant called Treaded Wheel and Tire. I was making maybe $11 an hour. And one day I got the idea that I was going to start a business. And it just kind of like popped into my head. And so what I did was I made some flyers and I just went door to door, knocking on people's doors and saying, hey, my name's Dave. I'm with Future Solutions. Here's a list of things that I know how to do. If there's anything that you see on this list that you want us to do, let me know. And so I would do that after work every single day, 7 days a week. I had no vehicle yet. I had no driver's license. I was living in a rooming house with another guy. It was a shared bedroom and we had shared refrigerators and the whole 9 yards. So, I started selling work and doing it on the weekends. And eventually I got my license back. I quit my job. I went and and I gave him my a 2 weeks notice. And, it was real funny, Matt, because when I gave him the 2 weeks notice and I told him I was going to start my own business, all the staff in the office laughed at me, and it was just like a big round of laughter. And then, eventually they figured out that I was serious and I was leaving. So they offered me some kind of, I don't know, maybe it was like $1 an hour raise or something like that. But anyway, so I ended up leaving there, and, I just continued to stay sober, and we were going around the neighborhood and just knocking doors and selling jobs. And I got 1 truck, and I got 2 trucks, then I got 3 trucks. And, I just kept growing the business to what it is today. And what it is today, it's a multi-million-dollar award-winning company. We have a 15,000 square foot warehouse in New York. We manufacture fence. We supply 22 other fence companies locally here with materials. We have 8 installation crews. We have inside sales, outside sales, admins, production staff, CNC machines, forklifts. We got it going on, man.
Wow. Man, what a turnaround. Have you been back to that old job and sort of let them know where you've ended up?
Yeah. Actually, I got a good relationship with them because, they left the door open. They're like, hey, listen, if it fails and you need your job back, you're guaranteed a job back here. Because, I gave them my all. I gave them 100%. And so now we actually go there to have trailer tires put on all of our trailers for our delivery trucks. And I always remained grateful for that job. So every once in a while I'll stop by, we'll bring a couple dozen donuts over there and I'll talk to the staff. So, there was no hard feelings over it. I don't listen to the naysayers, Matt. We just keep moving ahead, man.
Good work. Well, man, it's an amazing story. And I know you're all about breathing hope and inspiration into people. So for any of you guys out there that are feeling like you've been issued a bad hand, then take note, because you can turn things around. I'd love to know, I suppose. I mean, obviously you said, I'm going to go start a business. Like, I think a lot of people do that. Like, I'm going to go start a business. But many of them don't really understand what that actually means. They just think it's a great way for them to go and, make millions of dollars and go work for themselves. And they think it's just a quick cut track, just from A to B without all the shit you have to learn along the way. So without any business education, how did you get to that point?
Well, Matt, I'll tell you one thing that I learned is that either way you cut the cake, you're going to pay for your education.
Sure.
Whether it be through a university, whether it be through making a 5,000 mistake here, a 10,000 mistake there, you're going to pay for your education. So, I just sort of, as I like to put it, building the airplane while we're flying it.
Mm-hmm.
So we just, kept moving ahead, and we would make mistakes, and we would say, okay, what's the solution to this mistake? And we'd come up with a solution. And, we got better and better with our sales processes, with our installation processes, knowledge about what our industry is. We constantly keep learning what our industry is. But, I'm not going to lie to you, it was really, really hard. And so when you stop making money and you start going into debt and you got no sales and you start laying people off, that's when the fear kicks in for people. And that's when they say, okay, maybe I better just go back and get a job. Or they got their wife or their significant other, their husband or their mom and their dad and their family telling them, you know what, you ought to just go back and get a safe, secure job. And they give it up right there. They don't push through the hard times. And to be honest with you, it's the people that are closest to you that are going to be the naysayers. They're going to tell you that you can't do it. They want to pull you back down, Matt, to where they are. But, we just keep moving ahead, man. I used to have people say, oh, there goes Dave the Builder. I had a truck that was 3 different colors, and it was backfiring. It was a 5-speed and transmission slipping. And it's a process, and we're just figuring it out as we go every single day.
So since we last spoke, Dave, you were pretty heavily into you were throwing up fences and you were doing all that kind of stuff. And you've sort of shifted now to the manufacturing side of things, haven't you?
Yes. Yep.
So maybe let's talk a little bit about that segue and how that side of the business has evolved. Because obviously, as you said, you've still got installation crews. So I'm curious as well on that side of the conversation, where you've got a business that is actually manufacturing material, you've got teams that are installing it, and then you're also selling stuff that you're manufacturing to essentially competitors. So
yeah, and it's very interesting how it happens. So we used to I used to think that the money was just in installing fences because, I'm studying my industry all the time, but I still didn't really know where the money was in the industry. I thought the money was just in the installation. So one day I'm going to the fence company, which I'm not going to say their name. We're buying the fences. And I remember going into the office and seeing a piece of paper on the desk and it had my name on it. And there was 2 different money figures on it. And so one was like 7,000 and then the other one was like 11,500. Right. And I remember the lady pulled the piece of paper away real quick and she said, "Don't look at that." I said, well, hey, it had my name on it. So I was just curious as to what it was. And then I realized that was the 7,000 was their cost and the 11,500 is what they were selling it to me for.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing some investigation and saying, hey, where can I get these materials from? So I got into that whole world of wholesaling and all the politics that were involved in it and with the different sales territory and the different vendors and distributors and this person knows that person, so you can't get fence here. And so anyways, we rented out a garage that was attached to a warehouse. There was 4 different businesses in that warehouse. And I remember that we bought a CNC machine that you had to put together. It was ancient. So we didn't even know if it worked. So we put this whole thing together. It was like a super old computer with the green screens on it. It had DOS. It was very, very hard. So we had to learn how to write geometric code. So we had to write thousands of lines of code to get this thing to cut a post or cut a vinyl railing. So anyways, we get this machine to work and we start just using it to make our own fence. We buy a truckload of fence, maybe it was like $50,000. And, we get a really good deal on it because it's blank, it's wholesale, it's not routed yet. It's just raw extrusions is what we call it in the fence business. So anyways, we're doing this and then we start contacting other fence companies locally and they start coming and buying fence off of us. So lo and behold, that machine bought a much more modern CNC machine, which is called an SSD machine. So this thing is specifically built for fencing. It is a routing machine. It clamps with air. It runs on air. It's super efficient. It's got software. We could put these designs. We don't got to write code like that no more. So that machine ends up paying for another portion of the warehouse, which was a really large portion. It was about 10,000 square foot. There was a power washing company in there. We had them. Well, they got their self evicted. I don't want to say that we had them evicted, but really, I think that the owners knew that our business was blowing up and they wanted all those other companies out of there. So we get that. It's got 2 offices in it. We remodel the whole thing, put new heating in it, epoxy the floors, paint lines for the forklifts, the whole 9 yards. So we start really pumping fence out of this stuff and getting in the lean manufacturing and organizing the warehouse. And then another company got evicted out of there, which was a construction company. So then we took that portion of the warehouse and turned that into a big showroom. Right. So now we got a showroom for, our customers to come in and look at, homeowners, our contractors to come in and look at. They could see the material, they can feel it, they can see how tall it is, the durability of it, the whole 9 yards. And then there was a plastics company attached to there too, which they went out of business. So we turned that into an aluminum room, which does the aluminum routing and all of our ornamental fence in there. There's another office for our production manager. And Matt, I can go on and on about it. There's so much to it that came with the manufacturing side. And that's like 70% of our business right about now.
Sounds lucky that you moved into a facility that you could grow bit by bit through luck or whatever it might be. But imagine having to have those different elements of the business in different locations. That'd be a bit of a grind, I would imagine.
Yeah, we would definitely look for a different building.
Sure. So I'm curious then, there's obviously, when we're talking manufacturing, it's a very different business to install. So, there's a lot more systems, there's a lot more, processes you've got to follow. There's probably a lot more compliance to follow on the floor, lots of things like that. So how did that side of the business evolve? And, did you have any guidance with, how to successfully run a manufacturing business just from running a fencing business?
Yeah, for the just recently, this last year, we actually got a coach that's here in the States that he helped with a lot of the HR stuff, a lot of the getting organized with the layouts. But before that, it was just on us. I mean, we had to like draw it out to set it up. So our in and our out, and show our cycles with our arrows and stuff like that. So things weren't bumping into each other. That was not easy to do. And the machinery's big, and it's not easy to move. And we had to permanently bracket things into the floor and into the walls. As far as compliance goes, I mean, we had to hire HR. So we had to have, employee handbooks, benefits in place, a write-up system in place. We had to have people certified on the forklifts. We had to have proper gear, boots and hard hats, and we had to have lanes for the public to walk in and for the forklift to operate in. And all of our forklifts had to have inspections done and proper, backup alarms and lights. And
so how did you learn all that? How did you know all that? Like, at what point were you like, oh, we need to get this, we need to do this, we need to do this? Like, where'd that come from?
Well, there'd be a problem. Like, I'd see somebody riding around on top of the forks, loading up customers. And I'd say, hey, you know what? We can get sued for that. We get in a lot of trouble, and then I would start researching it and say, oh, well, these guys need to actually be OSHA certified to run a forklift, So these are all things that it was just all trial and error, man. I mean, honestly, to tell you the truth, we didn't have anybody to tell us this stuff.
Right.
We just had to figure it out, and it's been a learning process, and just nonstop beating away at my trade, studying my trade, looking at other manufacturing facilities, looking at other fence companies. I would go and tour them out and see how their floors were set up, go see where they're getting their materials from, how they're doing things. It's just been a lot of trial and error, a lot of hard work.
So I touched on it a little bit before. You've gone from basically a fencing business where you're, essentially competing against other fencing companies in town or whatever. And now you're in the manufacturing business but you also have installation side to the business. So you're still competing against these guys, but you're also supplying them the equipment and the material. I worked in a business myself where many years ago where we were bringing a technology in from Europe and we're selling it to plumbers, but we're actually also a plumbing company. And there was a lot of animosity in the market about that. They were like, well, you're just controlling the market because you're bringing this stuff in and then you're selling it and you're still competing against us. So I'm curious how you tackle that conversation.
Yeah. So we saw all of our install crews are subcontracting crews that we have subcontractor agreements with. So our money's we do make money off the installation, but mainly we make the money off of the actual selling of the product. Oh. Our subs make most of the install money. We pay them the best, so we have the most subs out there. We take care of them the best. But so how it works with us is that we have to be real careful. Like, when things come in, the first thing that happens, Matt, is we take the labels off of everything.
Sure.
Because guys are nosy. They're in there with cameras. They want to know where you're getting stuff. They will cut you out over a couple dollars. So rule number one is everything, all the labels get taken off. Our labels go on. They get scanned into our inventory. So we don't tell anybody anything. All of our subcontractors also buy fence from us as well. So if they have their own jobs, we'll supply them with the fence. But honestly, I mean, there's a lot of animosity towards them because you can go both ways. Like, a distributor, all they do is they sell the fence. They don't install the fence. Most distributors don't. So there's that little niche market where our competitors would rather go to them as opposed to strengthening us by buying materials off of us. But honestly, there's not any that are real close to us. So We're kind of in a really good market for that in our area.
And when you say in your area, like as a manufacturing business, obviously you're not as bound to geographical, locations and boundaries as you would be from an install perspective. So, has that side of the business taken off? Like, do you distribute to wider geographical locations, or are you still sort of pretty local?
No, we're actually supplying to other states, and how we do it is we have a trucking company, a dispatching company that we'll call and we'll say, hey, we need a 53-foot dry van, a trailer over here going from here to New Jersey. give them the locations, we'll give them the weights and all that stuff, and they'll give us a price, and we'll pass that on to the people buying it, or they got to come there and pick it up. We do have delivery trucks, but we'll only deliver to about a 40-mile radius.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So we're really expanded on that part as far as distributing to other fence companies that are in other states.
And so do you distribute just to fence companies, or do you distribute to wholesale, retail stores, and the like?
No, we pretty much just distribute to other fence companies. And we also, we do a lot of homeowner DIY stuff. We love the homeowner that, they're handy, they got construction experience, they want to come in the showroom. We got all kinds of technology and CAD where they can come into the office and we can measure the fence right from our computers in the office. I mean, it pulls it right up on maps, and we have software where we could draw it right in, add gates, pick a style of fence out, and it'll instantly quote them. And then, we'll just swipe their credit card right there. It happens all the time.
So has the business, is it just purely fencing now? Is that all you guys are doing?
Yeah, we don't do anything else.
Okay.
That's another thing.
Right, because you were doing lots of things at one point, right?
Yeah, and finally I got to the point where I said, okay, I need to focus everything I got on one thing, because all that, hey, can you put French drains in? Can you put a retaining wall in? Can you do our deck? All that stuff had to go out the window because there was just so much work in fencing that we didn't have time for all that. And when you focus on something, Matt, and on one thing, it's like focusing a beam of light through a magnifying glass. You could burn a hole in something by focusing that light.
And so what did that look like on all fronts? I mean, obviously did you have to make a decision? Was it like a guillotine moment where you were like, cut everything else, we're just doing fencing, or was it gradual, or like how'd that look?
No, we pretty much cut everything because we wanted customers to know, like, hey, listen, we're not a handyman. We specialize in fence. We're experts in fence. This is what we do 6 days a week, 365 days a year. We're not doing anything else, because people that do everything, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but people start to think that you might not be an expert, and they're, oh yeah, we could put your toilet in and we'll put a fence in outside. And if you need your house painted, let me know. Yeah. Cause then you get the handyman error, and we don't want that. We want to strictly deal with fencing, and also, Matt, subcontracting things out. We want to give jobs to these subs that we know that they're experts in. So they're not going to be like, hey, we don't know how to do this, or this is out of our wheelhouse. We want it all to be just fencing.
And so then what did that look like, I suppose, when you had a business that was essentially providing a bunch of different things, and overnight you sort of made the chop and you said, okay, now we're just doing fencing only. Like, what did that mean to, the sales techs, the technicians in the team that you were using? Like, I'm guessing there would have been a huge part of the business, which was dependent on, well, not dependent, but there was a lot of income that would have been generated from these other areas within the business. And all of a sudden you just chopped it.
Yeah. You know what? It was really good because it was really, the salesmen were really able to hone in on one thing. They knew exactly what to bring to the estimates. They brought the estimates, they brought the brochures, they brought their wheel, their tape, their tablets where they can draw the fence out on them, so they were able to really focus on the one thing. And honestly, what, all of our tools, we sold them all. Right. We sold all the, all of our compressors and saws and nail guns and scaffolding and all that other stuff. And any type of bigger equipment that we had, like mini excavators, concrete mixers and barrows, powered barrows, we rent them out now. So just like the other power equipment companies rent their stuff out, we rent it out on a daily basis. So we were happy to get rid of it.
So you do rent it out, or you did rent it out?
No, we do. We still rent the stuff out.
And so is that another part? Is that another like branch of the business?
It's becoming one. It's something that I had just thought about. I said, hey, we got all these MT85s and MT100s and stuff just laying around here, like whole setups on trailers with buckets and augers and forklift attachments on them. I said, let's rent them out, and then we rent them out for half the price that, you can go to another company and rent them out. And we got the whole 9 yards there. They could take the trailer. It's all strapped up. It's ready to rock and roll. They got to fill it up with diesel. They got to sign it out, leave their driver's license, and we bill them.
So do you market that, or is that just through the network that you've currently got, like through your existing customers?
Yeah, it's through the customers that we already have. We don't ever have to advertise about it, and the stuff stays rented out all the time.
Sure.
Some people rent it out on a weekly basis.
Right.
We give them deals, and we just say, hey, you know what? You can keep it for the week. It's going to be $500 for the week instead of $700. The rules are you do not bring it back here until you're done with it. We don't want it in our lot.
Right.
And you know what, Matt? The equipment's all GPS tracked.
Sure.
It's fully insured. So, if somebody decides to steal it or something happens to it, it's no loss to us, really.
So let's talk about the like some of the nitty-gritty things here when we're growing a business which has grown so much over the years. And we had this conversation offline, like we've got a similar sort of situation, but how do you guys attack the whole staff conversation, HR, making it a great place to work, recruitment, retention, all that kind of thing?
Yeah. And you know what? I got really savvy with that, Matt, and I got really good at that. We had such a turnover rate. It was horrible. People were getting high on drugs. People were going to jail. People were just quitting. So we really had to get down with our hiring process. We had to have an interview. We make people take a DISC assessment test now, which is like a personality test. It's a mandatory second interview. We check their criminal backgrounds. We drug test them through an agency. We check all their references. And then on the second interview, we have that one with our key staff present that'll be working with them, because the attitude is one of the most important parts to us. So we got to make sure that they're a good fit, that they're not going to be combative, that they don't have an attitude, that they know everything, all that kind of stuff. So, that's how we get them. And, we offer sign-on bonuses, paid vacations, paid holidays, insurances, perks that come with it, bonuses. We have parties there, the whole 9 yards. So now that we got them, Matt, we got to keep them.
Sure.
Okay. And so one thing that an employee has to know is that they're valued. That's one of the most important parts. They're respected, that they're making a difference there. They need to know that there's room to grow at the company, that they're just not going to stay in that same position, because we don't want anybody that's just coming there for a paycheck. We don't want that. We want people that are working on themselves, that are becoming better people, that are they have goals, So one way that we ensure that, and I don't know if everybody does this or some people do this, but we hold a meeting every single day. And so the meeting is with all of our staff. It goes on for about 20 minutes to a half hour, starts at the same time, starts at 7:10 a.m. in the morning, and you would think, hey, this is going to be a dry meeting about, hey, what's going on the production floor, or what's going on with the plastic bins or this or that, but it's not. It's really like, hey, how was your weekend? How's everybody doing? Is everybody all right? How's everything going with your family? We got people setting goals. Everybody talks about their goals there, where they're at. It's sort of become a motivational thing there. I mean, I'm not saying like I'm pumping these guys up every day, but we're letting them know, like, hey, man, like Trevor's killing his goals, man. He's crushing his sales goals. Ryan's out there doing his thing. Amanda's doing her job 110%, and just congratulating people there and letting them know, like, hey, man, like, we care about you. And one thing, Matt, that I can't say enough about this stuff, but one thing too that's been instrumental there is we encourage people to come up with ideas. Hey, if you see something going on in the production floor and you think that there's a better way to go about it, we want to know about it. And so we'll take their idea into consideration and we'll put it into play. And people love that. They're like, man, listen, at my last job, like our boss wouldn't listen to anything that we said, and our ideas are valued here. And it's turned into the meetings. I never knew how important it was, but since we've been having those meetings, I might have lost one person in a year.
Wow.
Going from losing sometimes 2 people a week, and there's a definite art to it. And, we got goals up on the board. We got whiteboards with goals on them, sales goals, with people's personal goals. Some people are losing weight. Some people are running They want to do 100 miles in 30 days or whatever the case might be. And, we always have a quote that we go over, and one of our guys picks out a Bible verse and they read the Bible verse. They talk about it a little bit, and, we got to be careful with that stuff there, but everybody loves it, and everybody feels like they're part of a family, man. Right. They really do. And it's just culture. An open line of communication, Matt.
Yeah, it's amazing. I feel like we're living in parallel universes over here. It's very similar things we do at this end of the equator as well. It's and I think like what you say, I certainly relate to. First of all, letting people have their say, and like we're really big on. I've always been really big on not micromanaging people. So the way that I look at it is, if I can create systems and processes and policies and whatever for the overarching important things, and then I just give the team members free reign to do whatever they want within those boundaries, and I don't want to sit there and micromanage them as long as it gets done. We've got insane project management. We've got insane accountability management. We've got this beautiful goal structure thing set up where everyone can see it, similar to you, although the difference being, of course, our whole team is remote and we're located all over the planet. So it's all digital, but the same sort of thing. Like every day we have our stand-up meetings where we talk about the things we're going to get done, and every week we have our leadership meetings, and the whole team comes to that, where we talk about the bigger picture goals and our scorecards and all this kind of stuff, and everyone loves it. And things just get done. Like you can just see everyone moving towards the bigger picture, and everyone knows what they're doing, and there's no confusion as to who's doing what, and it's just so much clarity. People love that. They don't really get that,
They do, and what you're doing is you're empowering them.
Exactly.
You're empowering them, and you're delegating. That's important.
And I think for me, the thing was, well, like to be able to do that within a business, you've got to hire the right type of person. And so we have redone our entire recruitment process, and it's insane now, and it takes a long time. Like it's made up of a whole bunch of different interviews. It's made up of meetings. It's all the disc stuff that you're talking about. We do all of that in the interview process. Colby. We do it all, and it takes ages. And my team fight me on it all the time. They're like, "We need them now. We need to hire." And I'm like, "No, put them through the process. They're not being. Yes. I'm not signing them up until they've been through the process." And since we've done it, we've not had anyone leave. And before, people were just coming and going all the time. So I think as a leader, sometimes you've got to be respectful, and you've got to listen to people, and you've got to let them have their say. But then you've also got to have boundaries for which they can operate. And this is a big one for me. I'm like, you guys can do whatever you want, but this process is staying put. And you can fight me and argue until you're blue in the face, but it's not going anywhere. And so now they're finally coming around to it. They're like, okay, because maybe my developers, I say to them, like, you need people, you go recruit for it and hire it, but they're going through the process. And we've obviously got, we've got things in place which let us know at what point we can hire and all that kind of stuff. But, even yesterday, they're like, oh, I found this person for this job. And I'm like, well, they're not they haven't completed the form. They haven't even started. They're not in the pipeline. They're like, oh, we haven't done that yet, but we've spoken to them. And I'm like, well, why? You haven't followed the process. I'm like, no, go and follow the process. I go, they are not even an inch closer than anyone else.
Yeah. So and that word will be your best friend process in the end.
Yeah. But I mean, it's always from my point of view as a business owner, trying to build something that's built to scale. Like we've spent a lot of, as my coach says, you've been navel gazing. Like we've been looking on the inside for so long now, just trying to develop the processes so that it's built to scale. And it finally is, and it is scaling ridiculously quickly. But you can't do that without spending that time in setting it up that way, And I think back in, only a couple of years ago, we were very ad hoc, and it was very, just do this, hire him, blah, 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 hire her, do this, blah, blah, whatever. Nothing ever worked. Well, I mean, it worked, but it was temporary,
Yes.
Whereas now I'm like, I'm not interested in temporary. Like anyone that comes on board, we want them there for 5 years. That's the expectation, minimum and beyond.
Absolutely.
So,
I agree, 100%.
We've got all the frameworks now are built around that, and so it's been. But these are things, like I was saying to you before. How do you learn this stuff? Like these are things that like I would never have figured out on my own. I read a lot of books. I have a coach, and I speak to hundreds, thousands of people, through the podcast and, network and community. Like, these are things that we just, you learn over time as you become a business owner. That transition from being really good at whatever you do in your trade to becoming a business owner. Like, you're a fence guy. Now you don't go anywhere near fencing. You just run the business kind of thing, right? Like, that's a segue. That's stuff you need to learn along the way.
Yep. Yeah. Things have changed a lot. I mean, I'm obviously not in the field at all, nor would I go back out in the field. My time is more valuable working on the business.
Of course. Yeah.
And we couldn't have did it without the processes.
Sure.
Some of the processes that we have, and we use a lot of software. So, we went completely paperless. We don't have any type of papers floating around the warehouse. Even our estimates are instant on tablets, emailed right to the customer. If a customer wants to buy a fence, it instantly puts together a sheet for the fab shop, gets shipped to the fab shop, goes to Asana. Everybody's invited into the Asana. I can look on my phone and see everything that's done. There's TV monitors hanging up everywhere in the warehouse so they can see the numbers of the stuff that they got to cut. They don't got to go back and forth and, hey, where's the paper? And, the process has equaled freedom to me. I mean, I'm rarely ever in the office just for my meetings. And other than that, I'm out, working on the business.
I mean, and it's literally impossible. And a couple of people we've hired this, this week, I was saying before, we've hired 3 people in the last 7 days. It's insane. But like, one of them, one of their key metrics was to enable me to operate in my sweet spot in the business for, at least 50% of the time over the next 3 months. So gradually reducing, bit by bit, my involvement in that whole, customer support side of the business, which is super, super important, but it's not where I should be spending my time. And so, we're building frameworks. So she's come on board, and we're already actively building frameworks, on how to gradually reduce myself bit by bit from that. So I can, like you say, focus on, the important parts of the business, strategy, product releases, launches, podcasting, all this kind of stuff. Things that are important for, where my sweet spot is within the business. Because until you process out those things that you don't want to be doing, it's impossible to give it to someone else to do. Like, how can you do that? You can't just. And I've tried. Trust me. I'll come and just to do this and figure it out yourself, and it never works. It never ever works.
They never do it. Costly.
Yeah, exactly. And they never do it the way you want it. They never do it, to the same quality that you want it done. But it's your fault. You just don't equip them with process. And now we're just like, bugger it. We're just going to equip everyone with process, so they have 100% transparency on what they need to do and how they need to do it. And then off you go, And the hiring process that we have ensures that they are qualified. They're the right type of person. They've got the right attitude, the right culture fit. Like, we ensure all that in the hiring. So we're radically reducing our, attrition rate when it comes to team turnover. And so things are slowly, but starting to, work better and better, but it's a work in progress.
Yeah. Well, that's the life cycle of the business. You get into the chaos stage. You either crumble or you start putting processes in place.
Sure.
And, whenever there's a mistake, Matt, and the guys will call me up and I'll say, hey, Dave, this happened and that happened. I say, okay, did you follow the process? No.
Yeah.
We didn't. We forgot to count that, or we forgot to sign the paperwork, or that they didn't double check that, or they didn't make whatever the case might be. It always goes back to that process.
Sure.
And that's what they're there for, to eliminate mistakes. And we've put, even with our subcontractors, we have checklists that we make them fill out.
Yeah.
And we have a customer survey. We make them bring it to the customer and fill the survey. Have you been walked around your fence? Have you inspected your fence for visible damage? Are all your gates working properly? Is the dirt been put where you want the dirt? Is your fence wiped down? Things like that. There was problems. They said this, they said that. They wanted, a reduced price and just more processes, Matt. And we're always refining it. And, it's just going to enable us to keep scaling.
We had a new client come on board yesterday, and he was like, wow, you guys have really got like a lot of automations and a lot of processes in place for onboarding and things like that, don't you? And I was like, yeah, we do. It's taken 10 years to get to this point. But I think a lot of people have this fear of like dehumanizing the business through process. But the reality is it just Like it's the opposite. I find it like having certain things that are, processed and automated and whatever it might be. It enables your team members to be so much more creative and be themselves more, like, because it gives them these boundaries and they don't have to worry about these things, which would typically take up a lot of time. Oh, have you sent the onboarding email? Oh, no, I forgot. Well, we don't have to worry about that because it's all automated, So
Absolutely.
they can go focus on things that are important to them and things they're good at. And so they haven't got to worry about these little things. And sure, there is always problems that pop up. There's things that always need to be improved. That will never end. And we have that mentality. Like, one of our values is always improving. Like, we want to make sure that we're always finding, that 1% that we can tweak and optimize to make things run a little bit better. And like yourselves, we encourage them. We want their feedback. We're like, guys, I'm not the one doing this. You're doing it. How can we do it better? Give us your feedback. and they love that because they're so much more willing and likely to follow a process if they've created it. Whereas if I a version 1.0, when I give it to them, they go, here, do this. They look at it and they go, oh yeah, okay, great. And then after like the third time they do it, they're like, this is freaking stupid. Why would I do it this way when I could do it this way? And they come back and they say, I found a better way of doing this. And I'm just like, yes.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're the ones out there doing it, so they would know. And honestly, I had my staff make up the whole write-up process.
Right.
I just asked them, like, hey, if you were getting written up at work, what would you be written up for? And we went through it, assigned points to it, decided how many points before somebody got terminated, how many warnings, a way to knock the points off the system. So when that, because you can get to that point where you might have to let somebody go. Mm-hmm. And, they might go to labor board. Up here, it's the labor board that we use. And they might say, hey, I was unjustly fired. We had a contract to work so many. And we just bring up the write-up process. And, and I could tell them, like, hey, you actually, you're the one that came up with that idea for a write-up, and here you are again, riding around with the forks midway up without beeping through entryways. And you've done it 3 times. And now we're going to have to let you go. So it's important to have, that's another process. Yep. What is it? Delegate, automate, and eliminate.
That's right.
Those 3 things. I mean, we automate all kinds of stuff through MailChimp and Calendly and sales follow-ups and CRMs and, the whole 9 yards, Matt.
It's that whole myth, isn't it? Like, people think and again, I have like especially some of my guys in the marketing departments or the development team, like I don't have time to create processes. And I keep drilling home to them. You don't have time to create the process because you've never created the process. And you keep having to do this one thing over and over and over and over again 1,000 times. I said, you spend the time, it takes you 4 times the amount of time to do it once, but then you haven't got to do it again. And they're just, it's slowly sinking in bit by bit. And now that I've given them free rein to basically build their team, but I say to them, you can build your team, but anything that you train them on, they're trained through process. There's no one-on-one meetings. There's none of that. You train them through process and SOPs and policies. And now they're like, shit, okay, because they're so used to standing over someone and not showing them how to do something. And I'm like, we're not doing that. You train them through process. You record it, you document it. It goes through me first, and then it goes on to the person. And now they're like, oh, okay. Yep. So
empowering them.
Yeah, exactly. But they sort of see it as an inconvenience. But they're starting now to understand the reality of a situation, and it's sort of starting to make a bit more sense to them. So, yeah, you're empowering them. That's right. And you're teaching them. Like, I'm trying to teach them things, They just sometimes see you as the boss as just someone who's making their life difficult. But once they can kind of see things working, and they're like, oh, that's why he does that.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we could talk for days on this topic, but
sure.
I'm curious, what's next for you guys? What's in the pipeline?
Okay, so 2 things. For about the last 6 months now, we've been working on our e-commerce. We got a lot of products already up, digital renderings done, prices, things weighed, measured. We got platforms to ship through. We're organizing, doing all the back end work, organizing the warehouse. We want to reach out and start selling key products to whether it's fence panels, whether it's gate hardware, post caps, LED lights for the fences, solar lights for the fences. So that's been a really big undertaking, doing that and getting everything set up through WooCommerce and Stripe. And so we've been going through that process. So we're going to be selling e-commerce. It's just another way for us to scale. Mm-hmm. And then one thing that we did that I never thought that was possible, Matt, because I always thought like, hey, like, how hard would it be to go door to door and sell fences? I'm like, it's a $10,000 sale. It probably wouldn't happen. But then my mindset changed, right? Then I said, okay, what if we do direct sales and we target our direct sales to all new communities that are being built and just being built? 7 out of 10 7 out of 10 houses have a fence down here in the United States. And it could be even more than that. And so what we actually did is we came up with really nice door knockers, big. They're super techy. They got the big QR code on them where people can just pull their camera out, go right to our website, schedule an estimate. It talks about the installation side on the front, and then on the back, it talks about the DIY side, how we're manufacturers and our state-of-the-art facility. So I said, okay, well, let's take it a step further than just going, these guys walking around door to door. It can get tiring. There's lots of hills. If they got a fence already, of course, we're going to skip them. So now what we did is we actually bought Segways. We bought 9 bots. And I'm telling you, listen, these guys cover 18 miles on these things. Yeah, listen, they got a 25-mile range, and they go 14 miles an hour, right? And off of one battery.
Wow.
And so these guys are literally jumping on these Segways and going right up to people's doors on them. And just real simple, Matt. They're like, hey, we're in a neighborhood. We installed a bunch, they're name dropping. We installed fences for $440 and $230 already. I just wanted to give you this. Maybe we could help you out. By the way, you have a beautiful house. This is a beautiful community. You can go right online. You can schedule an estimate. You could get an instant quote on there using our software. We'd love to come out. And hey, if you like our quote, then call back and mention this door hanger and get 10% off. This way you already got your number. Now you're getting your 10% off. And the guys are going out there and making themselves known in the community. And I'm telling you right now that each salesman has been pulling anywhere from 5 to 15 estimates a day.
What?
Going through the communities. And we just schedule them right in on Calendly. Right there, the guys are strong closers. And, as I talked to the guy, I said, how much faster could we do this going up and down people's driveways? Because you don't want to walk through their lawns. In brand new communities, almost every single one of them needs a fence. These houses are just built. We got lists. I'm friends with real estate agents. They print these lists out of all the new houses, new communities. Yeah. And we're just going out there on 9 bots, which 9 bot Segway, and just going to people's doors 14 miles an hour up and down their sidewalks or driveways and zooming around the communities, man. And it's been huge because not only do we sell to the person out, the customer, the homeowner, the end user, but we also find other fence companies out there. Sure. And we go up to them too, like, hey, how you guys doing on material in the pandemic?
Yeah.
Here's our door knocker, man. Come down to our showroom. We got plenty of materials. We're multi-source. We're manufacturers. We'll give you a great deal. So we've been taking fence companies that are buying off of our competitors and bringing them to us that we find out there in the community, contractors that are handymen selling to them. So that's been huge. And I can't believe that we never explored that. And we're the only company out there doing that.
Wow.
And it's been huge, Matt. It's keeping our calendar completely filled.
It's so cool. And how many of those guys are there?
3.
3 of them, really?
Yeah, 3 of them.
That's the best.
Yeah, 3 of them, man. And then we got we got 2 estimators go out there and estimate, and that's our little outside sales force. Okay. And that's something that's new, something that I just thought of, and I said, why can't we, and the door knockers are only 6 cents a piece to make.
Sure.
When you buy 5,000 of them at a clip, and they're super glossy and nice, the company colors and logos and great graphics on them, right for Vista. Yeah,
exactly. And so is that the big focus then, is the online side of things? So do you think that will eventually end up in you having your own logistic, department? Like, will you get trucks for delivery, and will you do all that kind of stuff? Like if it's in a state or whatever, or will you just always contract that?
Yeah, we already got that set up to where we're going to use our regular dispatchers for our truckloads. We're going to use UPS, FedEx. We got all linked up with them already.
Okay.
We had to revamp our whole entire inventory system, which took weeks to do with QR codes and That was the first thing we had to do, Matt. And so that's been a really big process, but we're hoping to launch that. Our goal is December 17th. Will we get that? I don't know, but we're certainly working hard every day to get that. But that's going to open up a lot of stuff for us.
All right, mate. Well, I better let you go and get some rest then, because it sounds like you got a big week ahead of you.
Yeah, man.
But mate, it's great to catch up again. Thanks for checking in. I almost feel guilty I didn't reach out to you before you reached out to us. But mate, it's great to hear about how you progress, and we look forward to the next conversation to see where that ends up.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me on the show, Matt, and congratulations to all your success too, and what you guys are doing over there.
Absolutely, mate. Thank you very much. And for your listeners out there, if you want to get hold of Dave, just head across to the Facebook group. He's in there. He's always chiming in. So that's where you'll get him. All right, mate. Thank you.
Yep. See you, Matt.
Ciao. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to thesiteshed.com, where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from the show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.